Hey guys, welcome back to Freedom Brigade Nation. Kendra, you were off gallivanting last week, enjoying your family on Christmas. Did you guys have a good Christmas?
We had a great Christmas. Everybody was here, all 8 kids, 3 spouses, 4 grandkids. It was a great time.
Nice.
Your quiver
Yes.
is full. We
Yes.
were
How
talking,
was yours?
Andrea and I, oh, it was great. We were talking a little bit about how I wish I could just throw this thing away some
Yeah.
days just to have that family time back that I just really wish. I think, in the 80s, before we were all had a chain and ball attached to us, there was actually
Mhm.
freedom with your family and you were actually not available for everybody. And so
Mhm.
that's great. But I'm excited about the new year. We have done a lot in 2026. The brigades have taken on the green energy in a way that is huge. I have seen them fight back and to get the right people in offices. One of the things, Andrea, you and I really started this under frontline doctors was, we've given them a playbook on how to make sure that they have a constitutional sheriff.
Mhm.
Because your sheriff, as we've always said, that is, if you've got to take back your local community to
Yep.
be able to do anything right. If COVID did anything besides finally wake you guys up, finally. Uh,
Thank you for joining us.
yes, thank you for joining
Yes.
us. Uh, but they showed that your sheriff has more say over you
Mhm.
than your president does. It didn't really matter what was happening in DC as much.
Yeah.
It still mattered, but not as much.
And
And so
the good sheriffs know the Constitution better than most politicians out there. So when you can
that's
find a
true.
good sheriff,
Yeah.
yeah, you can do a lot in your community.
Well, we had a guest. We're having a guest on today. When I met him, we were having a constitutional sheriff. Um, it was on by a team called Ecclesia, and they were having a conference. And I heard stories of how sheriffs stood up
Mhm.
against the federal government trying to take rights away from citizens. And it was really, I so enjoyed that entire conference. But we have Sheriff Mack here he was the sheriff
Yay.
in Graham County, Arizona.
Mhm.
He was in law enforcement for 20 years, but he was the first sheriff to sue the federal government.
Amen.
A true badass.
Mhm.
Welcome, Sheriff Mack.
Oh, let me get him here. Here he is.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be on the same boat with Kendra.
I'm saying, I'm
The
saying,
badasses.
Yeah,
Keep it coming. I love
that
the love.
badass
Yes.
boat. Yeah, yeah. So and again, happy New Year to all of you, and happy birthday tomorrow to my wife.
Oh, yay. Happy
Uh,
birthday.
Birthday.
yeah,
well,
I
49
won't,
years, right?
I won't tell you how old she is, but I just turned 73 4 days ago, and she's five
Awesome.
years
Happy
younger than I
birthday.
am.
No,
But I won't tell you how old.
you've been married to her for 49 years. That's pretty impressive.
We've been married 50 years.
Oh,
50
good for
now.
you.
Wow.
Congrats.
Yeah,
That's
that
awesome.
was just this year. 2025 was our 50th.
That's
Awesome.
amazing.
So it is amazing. That's a miracle. I'm telling you. Yeah.
So I gotta know, what is the secret? How do you put up with the same person for 50 years and not joking? I just have to know. Because
Yeah,
even somebody as
we get
wonderful
we
as
get
me
asked that a lot. We have an answer, and it's not a kidding one. It's totally real. One of you has to be patient, pretty much 100% of the time,
okay, so that's Randy. Randy, if you're
Yeah.
watching, you need to be patient.
and it doesn't matter which one it is. She claims that she is most of the time, and it's probably true. But it does. If one of you isn't, both of you could be patient all the time. That's great, but that's not realistic.
Right.
But one of you has to, and if not, you're going to let some petty little thing get in the way of your marriage. And I know, and I could tell you the story, but I know she was supposed to be my wife. It's an amazing,
Aw.
miraculous story. How we met, how we got married. It it wasn't my idea. I guarantee you, it was the last thing I would have done is marry her. She was way too young, and it was just it wasn't in the cards for me at all to marry this girl. But it, like I say, it was the inspiration of how we met and how we got married was not mine, and it was just another miracle. And she was supposed to be my wife because she would be patient with me in doing the work that I was called to do, and doing, suing the Clintons and standing for the Constitution and defending the Constitution and writing the books and being on tour, and all of this was because she was raised in a constitutional home. It was almost like she was raised to be my wife.
That's amazing. God does that kind of stuff. He just
Yeah.
works it out and lines it up perfectly. That's really awesome.
But patience is the key, and it's so true, because we look back at the times we had some fights, and we said, what was it about? Even is this some stupid thing, And they were all very petty, very stupid. And I'm just glad that we were able to recognize that. And she's been a wonderful wife, a wonderful mother, and a wonderful partner in the holy cause of liberty that I'm a part of.
That's amazing. We have to have the support. And you're right, married people will fight about these stupidest
The
things
stupidest
planet
thing.
Earth. And I mean fight. I mean,
Yeah. Well,
that's awesome.
she only hit me one time, and I've
Oh,
never hit her. But I was always trying to show her how strong my stomach was. And so I would say, go ahead, hit me. I don't care. And so she would hit me. Well, one day she hit me to test it, and I wasn't ready. And she knocked the air out of me. Yeah. Yeah. I literally went down to one knee.
oh, that's something.
But I go, what did you do that for? She goes, well, you said I could hit you. And I said, yeah, when I tell you to. Yeah. And that was like 40 years ago. So I don't know. Yeah,
That's awesome. I love
but
that.
I'm glad she didn't follow it up with a second punch, because she would have had me down and out. But
That would have been done,
but
huh?
she's
Well,
really
happy birthday.
petite. She's really
Sorry.
small. She's way too short. But she's just absolutely a perfect fit for me.
Oh, those small ones, you better be careful. They're
Oh, I
scary.
know. Yeah.
Well,
So
that's awesome. Now you guys have 5 grandchildren, right? And
we
15
have 5 children and 15 grandkids.
That's amazing.
Yay.
So that's Kendra was just telling us about how full her quiver is as well. So I don't have any grandchildren yet. I have heard that they are better than children. I had a
Oh
neighbor
yeah,
one
if we
time
could
that
have
told
skipped the
me he would
kids
have
and
had the
gone
birth.
straight to
That's what
grandkids,
I
we
heard.
would have. Yeah, grandkids are wonderful. Absolutely love them.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Well, they say you
No,
get to love on them and send them home, but I struggle sending them home. I'm just like, no, I'm not ready to give you back yet.
No, yeah, we very seldom want to get rid of them. They
Right.
can stay here as long as they want and as much as they want, and we really love it that they like to be with us. We
that's
love that.
awesome.
Just yeah, it's phenomenal.
That's really sweet.
Yeah.
My grandfather was the greatest man that walked the face of the earth besides Jesus until I met my husband, and it's really cool to be able to have
Well,
a
that's good.
relationship like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm still mad at God about taking him out. I'm like, that was the one that was supposed to live forever. So that's really cool to have that relationship.
Yeah.
You said though that your wife is also huge on the constitutional rights, which I don't understand why every American isn't. Which is why Kendra was so big on instituting the social studies standards that Ryan put in, where we wanted original documentation. We want the kids to learn to be able to read cursive so that they know what it says. And we wanted to teach them what it says, not a third-hand account of what somebody wanted to rewrite the narrative.
Right.
And we've been talking a lot about DHS, and it's my understanding you had your own run-in with DHS and constitutional rights. We have a couple of cases in Oklahoma that we are currently helping with where there was actually it's legal medical kidnapping. And it's
Yeah.
just atrocious. And so do you feel comfortable telling us a little bit about your story? What happened?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It was really mind-blowing how controlling and bullying and unlawful and unfeeling these people are. And it seems like they're trained to be that way. They're trained to do that. But my daughter and her husband, uh, she was divorced about 10, 12 years ago. She got remarried, and her new husband um, had was really a good husband, good father, good stepdad, and he would get up early in the morning and take the kids to school. Well, one of them got a little bit moody and wouldn't get in the car, and they were late for school, and he grabbed her coat and put her in the car, and she got a little bit of an abrasion on her shoulder, and somehow that got reported to somebody, and the counselor said, "Well, I think it was at school." Counselor said, "Well, if it gets reported to me, I have to report it to DFS," and and I think it's CPS in a lot of places, Child Protection Services,
Yes.
or Division of Family Services, as in some other states, but it's basically the same thing. And so they went to the home and they were checking it out, and the new husband and my daughter had a new baby together, and he was 2 years old at the time. And they checked everybody out, and Millie checked out, and she was okay. And they said, well, they can go, she can go, and they can, all three of the girls from the original biological father, they can go over there anytime. He lives close by. And so they said, well, why don't you go over there, stay there until we get this thing ironed out? Good. They said, well, what do we do with the young boy? So first of all, he's never been part of the problem. Okay. It was the stepdaughter, and my son-in-law is extremely protective, overly so, of the son. It's his only son. It's his only child. And he spoils well, I'll call him what he is. His name is Mack. He's Mack, like my last name is his first name. And we like that. And so they said, well, how are you going to prove to them? He asked this to them. How are you going to prove that he's not in endangered? And I said, well, there's two police officers here. Why don't you ask them the same question about their children? How can they prove that their children are safe? How do you, any of you have children? How are you going to prove that they're safe? So anyway, my wife and I at the time lived 40 minutes away from where this was happening with my daughter. And she called us and said, hey, CPS is here, cops are here, and they said they're going to take Mack. And I said, don't let them take him. Just tell them to hold on until Mom and I get there. And we hustled over there. I'm a former detective with the Provo Police Department. That's Provo Police in Utah County, right next to where Charlie Kirk was killed. UVU. My daughter graduated from UVU. Mm-hmm. So that's another story for another day. But anyway, I was a cop there. I was a school resource officer. I was a detective. And so as a school resource officer, I helped train teachers to recognize abuse and how to report it. And so I did a lot of training with teachers and for teachers. And then I became a detective, and I continued on specializing in crimes against children. And if anyone hated child abuse, it was me. And I have still the scars to wear. I still have them, where I don't talk about some of the cases because they're too brutal and they're too painful.
Yeah.
That for me to see what a mother and father and uncle could do to their own children and own nieces and nephews. It was usually a father. And so I was Johnny on the spot to separate parents and to get them out of there when it was needed. And if it wasn't needed, we didn't do it. Well, as soon as we got to the scene, the two CPS workers were there, and they go, and if you look on their website, and this is just about every one of them, if you're going to take a child, or you need to take a child, you first give them to the grandparents and have the grandparents take custody until they get everything sorted out. They interviewed me and my wife, and I told them about my experience as a peace officer and as a detective and as a school resource officer. And then they came back after about 10 minutes talking it over, and they came back and then said, neither you or your wife are qualified to take the child.
What was their reasoning?
And I'm going, what? So of course we're asking them the same thing. Do you know why we weren't qualified? We disagreed with some of their analysis.
Wow.
That was it.
Wow.
And so my son-in-law was actually smarter than we were. And I didn't know we were being interrogated. I just thought they needed a little bit of information so they felt comfortable with us taking the kids, or just one of them, actually, just taking Mac. And so they literally grabbed Mac from the oldest sister, who was like 11 or 12 at the time. My daughter was just freaking out, just
Sure.
hysterically bawling her head off. And I asked the cops, I said, why are you here? And they said, to keep the peace. And I said, and you're allowing them to kidnap my grandson? Oh, this isn't kidnapping. They're taking my grandchild without a valid reason, and you're allowing it. You're not here to keep the peace. You're here to make sure that CPS does whatever the hell they want. That's why you're here. I said, you know that I'm totally qualified, and my wife, to take this child. And they're turning this child over to some stranger that is going to traumatize my grandson.
Right.
And you're okay with that. And I'm telling you, the group that needs to be trained are the police in this country that still do this crap.
That's right.
So anyway, they took him, and my son-in-law refused to talk to him, which turned out to be a real positive. I called other sheriffs in the state of Arizona who I'm close with, and they said, 2 or 3 of them said, we don't even call CPS anymore. They're too out of control. They act like they're the Gestapo. They're never fair. They're never honest. And so we don't even deal with them anymore. And so really that's the case. But in 4.5 days, they brought Mac back, and miraculously. And then my son-in-law tried to sue him, and he contacted a law firm that handles this sort of thing. And the law firm said, we're dealing with hundreds of cases where the parents never get the children back.
Yeah.
Count your blessings. We don't have time to take your case.
Oh, and Sheriff, have you, Tom, I work with attorney Tom Renz, and we've been looking at this closely across the country because we get a lot of people calling us. Well. Yeah. And we get a lot of people calling us constantly saying, please help us, like with what you're saying. They're trying to find an attorney to help. And we're finding so much corruption where these, the CPS, these organizations, they get incentivized. There's actually, it seems like there's incentive. They get incentivized on both sides. We had a medical case out of Oklahoma where they were incentivized not only to take him, but then to put him in a hospital and force treatment on him that his parents didn't want. But it's like the hospital made money off of it. They made money off of it. And then one of the cases, they kept him just the amount of time where they get the funding.
Yes.
And then they cut him when the funding stopped. So there's this machine. And then there's also this guilty until proven innocent type thing. It's like the parents are just automatically guilty, and you have to prove that you're not. I mean, it's completely upside down.
Yeah, and they take the son that was never abused.
Oh, that's just awful.
You know?
And how long ago was this?
This was 3 years ago.
Wow. And how old was Mac at the time?
A little over 2.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, so the words you used, excuse me, you said that they were bullying, controlling, unlawful, and unfeeling.
Yeah,
which is what
just
I've
totally
seen
unfeeling.
too.
I said, I looked them right, both of them. They were both female, and I looked them both in that. They were about 22, 23 at the most, just maybe out of college, it seemed like. And I looked both of them in the eye. I said, this thing you're doing is totally evil. And I'm looking in their eyes, and they're both just blank. It was just a blank. Like they didn't feel anything. They didn't care about anything. They were there to do what they were going to do, no matter what we said or did. And I said, so because I disagreed with some of your assessment and analysis of the situation, I know these people better than you do. I have that right. My son-in-law is not an abusive husband or father. And if
Right.
he was, I would be the first one to call the police. He never was. He still isn't. And they're all a happy home life. I mean, of course they get in arguments and whatnot, but the kids absolutely love him, and he's extremely friendly with them. They just got back from Flagstaff yesterday, where they took him up to play in the snow, because here in the Phoenix area, we don't ever get to do that. So, and he took some other nieces and nephews with him, and they're all coming back happy as heck. That's how that is. That's how they are. They get to do a lot of things together, and it doesn't exist. And they were making something out of nothing.
Well,
And then
what's interesting,
removing a child was completely unnecessary.
as a children's pastor, my husband and I were children's pastors for almost a decade, and we had a large bus ministry. And so there were several times that we watched DHS get involved with kids and families where DHS needed to be involved, and they left those kids. They
Yeah.
left those kids in the worst situations and did nothing, and they aided those parents. But then I watched them get taken out of homes of really good parents.
Yeah.
Now, I know in Oklahoma, we are talking with some legislators. We had a Senator Shane Jett on, and he said that the problem is they have made some allowances for DHS because they wanted to help them and aid them with the kids that were actually being abused. What the issue is DHS has taken it and is abusing those terms, and so they're working on legislation to pull that back in Oklahoma. But what would you say the average person does? I know that several people are scared to speak out about it because, like you said,
Yeah.
they're bullying and controlling. And so if you speak out, you may pay the price with your family. And
Yeah,
so,
and I didn't speak out until we got Mac back, and
Yeah.
we were looking, and we were calling lawyers, and that's when we first called that firm, and they were going to move with us and help us. And then we called him back and said, "Hey, we got him back today." He said, "Well, God bless you." He said, "But we still want to sue him." And that's when they said, "No, we don't have time to do it. We're helping people with when their children have been actually adopted by other families, adopted, and that goes. I didn't know it could ever go that fast, but they
Yeah.
did." And
And
so, yeah, and you were talking about constitutional sheriffs. Well, first of all, I'm the one that invented that term,
that's why I brought it up.
constitutional
Yes, that is.
sheriffs.
I'm sorry not to give you credit. That's
Well,
I invented
that's
the
okay,
term.
but
Yes. I wrote a program that you approved
oh,
to show. You do remember that?
yes,
For the people to be able to vet their sheriff, and we used your program as a blueprint. You are the constitutional sheriff and coined that term.
Mhm.
yes, and gratefully, both all of you are very familiar with this situation, but also very much so into the farce known as COVID-19 mandates
Mhm.
and forced vaccinations.
Mhm.
And even if the vaccination was effective and proper, which it wasn't, it was never properly tested,
Yeah.
not even close.
Right.
And we're now seeing more and more evidence of the farce and lie that the entire COVID fiasco was,
Mhm.
and how many millions of people were killed because of the vaccination, and how many of them have been maimed for life. But I am so proud to announce that there were over 500 sheriffs in this country. That's the good news. The bad news is that's only 17%
Yeah.
of all the sheriffs in the country. But this was huge because, one, it took 500 sheriffs to stand against gun control, and 3 different times in the last 30 years, sheriffs have saved the Second Amendment.
Mhm.
But also, over 500, 550 sheriffs in this country refused to enforce any of the COVID-19 mandates. And that needed, it started crescendoing,
Mhm.
and then by the time the COVID, they said, "Oh, well, yeah, we can go back to school now, as long as everybody wears a mask, and we can let people fly again as long as you wear a mask." And then they said, "Well, obviously you don't have to wear one while you're eating." And so I ate on every flight. I gained so much weight flying because I was always
Yeah.
eating peanuts, especially peanuts. I was just constantly peanuts and orange juice, peanuts and orange juice. And then, so what did they come up with? Well, you have to pull your mask down to eat, and then while you're chewing, you have to put it back.
Do you see the people that cut the holes?
Yeah. This is the one thing that's so stupid. When you go into a restaurant, when you walk into the restaurant and go up to the counter, you have to have your mask on to walk to the table, and then you can take it off.
Yeah.
And that was supposed to be protecting somebody.
COVID doesn't go under 6 feet, right? Or 4 feet, 5 feet, whatever it is.
Well, it's the same thing on the plane. You don't have to have, but keep doing this with the mask, while you're chewing and eating. So that's how stupid it got.
Yes.
And what did Edmund Burke say? The essence of tyranny is the enforcement of stupid laws. And they weren't even laws. They were just stupid ideas and stupid mandates. None of them were ever legislated. Never.
No, actually, in our town, they tried to do a curfew, and we went to city council and said you can't do that.
Well, that'll stop COVID.
We did it
every time.
anyway.
Just get a curfew. Yeah.
We sued him. Yeah, I know. I mean, it makes perfect sense. I mean, it's less dangerous after 7. Well, we sued the city, and within 3 days, they immediately turned it around because they never had a constitutional leg to stand on. But how many cities did people not stand up, and they put up with that crap? That was a test run to see what they could get away with and how much control they could.
And I think too many Americans showed them they could do it again because we were, oh, please take care of us, government. Oh, please. And what we also found that government can do anything it wants as long as they scare everybody enough.
Exactly. They scared them. Yep. And when we're talking about the things with, CPS and the issues with the Child Protective Services, one thing that, again, Tom brings up all the time is not many families. I mean, God bless your family and your ability to find an attorney and activate. A lot of people wouldn't even be able to do that. First of all, find an attorney, be able to afford to even engage. Right. And you have to move quickly. Like what you're saying is how quick it all happened. It's really sad how many families, it just happens so fast and they don't have the resources or the means or the know-how to even activate and get anyone that can actually help fight their case.
Yeah, it's sad that that poor people don't have access to legal help.
Yeah,
so somebody needs to set up a foundation for that to where people can get the adequate help. We had some cleaning ladies come over to our home during that time, and my wife and I were still really upset, and we treat them like family. We absolutely loved them, and we were obviously still upset when they came over, and I told them why we were upset. And one of the cleaning ladies just started bawling. Aww. I said, "What's the matter?" She goes, "I lost my 2 children 17 years ago."
Oh my gosh.
To the same thing. Yeah. And it just tore my heart out how this totally affected her. I said, "When was the last time you heard from them or seen them?" She goes, "When they took them." Yeah.
And she couldn't fight back.
No, she had no means to fight back.
Hopefully this legislation in Oklahoma will pass and it will spread. Yeah. But outside of that, what would you suggest for the everyday person to be able to fight back or to shield? I mean, first of all, be careful who you talk to, be careful, and my God, get your kids out of government schools. I keep saying this over and over because that is what started the ball on this. The government schools are not your friend. We've heard Dr. Simone Gold say when they're in the emergency room, they're looking, they're being spies for DHS. And I struggle with the line on that because there are kids who need to be rescued, but those aren't the ones. That's not who's being targeted. And so where's the line on that? How do we fix this?
Yeah, well, I wish I could say, report it to your sheriff and get him involved in it, because it's usually, more often than not, it's usually within the city limits to where the police departments are handling these calls. Obviously, some happens outside the city limits in homes as well. So the sheriff's office is involved. Just so everybody knows that the police departments handle all the calls within the incorporated areas of the city. So when I was sheriff, there were 3 other cities who each one had their own police department. The gentleman's agreement is, even though the sheriff has concurrent jurisdiction in the whole county, is for law enforcement calls, the police departments handle them inside the city limits. We handle everything outside the city limits. And so I wish we could say that a constitutional sheriff in over half the counties in this country. I'm realistic about that too. But right now, we only have a good solid, maybe 300 or 400 constitutional sheriffs in the entire country that really know and understand their job, their position, and the role that police play in preserving our constitutional republic and how we're supposed to lawfully keep our oath of office. And there's very little training. In fact, I'll even go out on a limb. I haven't been to every academy, but I've talked to just about everybody who has in the country. There's absolutely no training in law enforcement academies anywhere in the country that involves the oath of office. And so we become liars the very next day. When we first start our jobs, we go through the academy, we swear an oath of allegiance to the Constitution to enforce and defend civil rights of all people. And the very next day, we violate it and we become liars. And perjury is a crime that just about 95% of the cops in this country commit as soon as they take that oath. And we've got to understand the significance of the oath and the role that police are supposed to play in preserving our God-given freedoms. And that training has still been not enough. And I've been a lone wolf doing this. And I will say, and I'll tell you the one thing that has kept us from doing this nationally. I go from state to state and county to county with whenever somebody invites me and they pay my way because I'm not rich. I don't have the money to fund this myself. And so we started the CSPOA posse where people, Americans and citizens join our posse. So we train them to how to work with their sheriffs and to get their sheriffs to have posses so that a Minuteman organization, if you will, Minuteman women and men are available at a moment's notice to help the sheriff with anything. And in fact, some have been very sophisticated. Sheriff Joe Arpaio, when he was sheriff out here in Arizona, he had 2,500 on his posse. And he had one of his detectives on the posse actually investigate the false and fabricated birth certificate of one Barack Obama. And Barack Obama wouldn't have been investigated if he had done nothing. But he was taking so much heat about not being born in America, in Hawaii, that he actually fabricated a birth certificate that showed that he was born in Hawaii. And then the detective for Maricopa County Posse actually undid it and showed the 9 layers that somebody did that he hired somebody to do. And it was obvious. And I saw the evidence and he presented the evidence. And so that is another thing we really need badly in this country. And that is to conduct investigations on the crooks from the Biden and Obama administration regarding COVID-19 and other crimes that these people have committed. Alejandro Mayorkas, probably the biggest crook in the country, and he's scot-free. People say, well, what about Biden? He should be investigated and arrested. He's not mentally competent to stand trial. And there's already a report that suggested that. But he's not. He's not mentally capable. But his wife is, and the rest of his staff is. And they lied and they fabricated that he was president because he was not. They were.
That's right. He was a puppet.
He was totally a puppet. And the biggest evidence of that was when he was first in office and he did a press conference. And when he started to answer questions, because his staff told him, in fact, on one of the teleprompters, he said, be sure not to answer questions. So he even said what they told him to do. And then when he went to answer some questions, what happened? They pulled the plug on the television network and it just went blank on the screen. We knew then that this man was not capable of being president. And that was at the beginning. And the press lied for him. And his family and his staff and his press secretary. And so this is how bad it was. But those people should be investigated. And so Pam Bondi and President Trump, let's go after the real crooks. I'm really thrilled that a couple of judges have been arrested lately because they're part of the criminal syndicate in this country. But we have really got to go after politicians who have committed these crimes.
And now's the time, and we have to move quick. And that's why we put so much pressure on Bondi and Trump to move. I love what Nick Shirley did in Minnesota. And like, that's what you're talking about. I mean, I would love to see more sheriffs and law enforcement to do it as well. But if we, the people, have to do it, that's what he showed. He exposed it. And then like what you're saying with the media, Nick Shirley exposes all this fraud and corruption in Minnesota. And the mainstream legacy media says nothing. It's like crickets. And then slowly it starts dripping out. And it's wild when you see it in real time. They've been lying to us for years. We were definitely more in the dark before COVID. A lot of more people now see that it's all orchestrated and you can't trust the media. So thank God there's awareness there and there's discernment there.
I'm surprised Nick is still alive.
Yes, everyone's been talking about that. Yep.
But tell him we need him in Washington State. We need the same thing done in Washington State.
Yes,
we do.
Yeah.
Probably every state, or just about, but every Democrat state for sure.
Well, every state, because I'm in Oklahoma, and I think we're the most conservative state in the union, and there's a lot of corruption here. So if it's happening here, it is happening everywhere.
Yeah, it is, and I don't think you'll find in the red states. I don't think you'll find as much fraud with the entitlements and all of that, because they run a tighter ship usually. But there's definitely fraud in every state. Utah, where I was first a cop, the governor there. That came out on the television and whatnot. He's one of the biggest crooks and liars. He cheated to retain his office, 100% cheated, and he is a cheater and a liar. And I hope he hears this, because Governor Cox, you are a liar and you cheated to keep your office, and you know it.
Yeah, and we have Kendra here who sits as a treasury seat right now, right? Treasurer. So, I mean, the amount of corruption, even like you're saying, Charity, I'm in Nevada, so pray for me every day.
Oh, gee. Yeah.
I'm in the West Coast swamp. But Charity and Kendra being good friends of mine, I always say, please, we've got to clean up Oklahoma. Because like you say, if it's happening there, it's happening everywhere. And we see corruption in our county commissioners on a local level. We see them on our school boards. We see them on our library boards. We see them in our GOP county offices. And until we the people press for that transparency and do like what Sheriff Mack has done, stand up to it and stand up boldly, nothing is going to get done.
That's
well,
right.
It matters who you put into office. Go ahead, Kendra.
Well, let me interrupt real quickly. While I was thinking about the Washington State thing, we have a huge rally and training and press conference in Washington State in Puyallup, right outside Tacoma, Puyallup, Washington, on January 9th and 10th. And I want to invite all of you. You're close in Nevada. We'd love to have you come over, be a part of it, because it's the number one fanatic leftist woke destruction, and they're going after the sheriffs, and they already appoint the sheriff in King County. And so they're stealing the stewardship of the people, by, for, and of the people, to choose their own representatives. That's what a republic is. And what you were talking about regarding all the corruption, part of the reason is because in a democracy, which we are not, but what people actually think we are, you can do anything you want as long as you have a majority on your side. So county commissioners, if they get 3 out of the 5, they can do anything they want because it's lawful, because it's the democratic process. This is what we do. Well, it's bull, because we're not a democracy. We were never intended to be one, and you don't even know what form of government we have.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize how much power your county commissioners have. We talk about that on the show all the time. You need to pay attention to your local politics and get involved. Absolutely.
And they can also defend against tyranny from the state and other agencies, federal and state agents. They can help defend with the sheriff. And the sheriff is the ultimate executive, the ultimate executor of the law, executive. He's part of the executive branch. But he's the ultimate protector of the people, and he's the ultimate law enforcement officer. And my Supreme Court case bears that out. And so let me read that to you real quick.
Yes, please do.
Okay, everyone should get this. This is a copy of the case. And by the way, don't forget, I want you guys all to come to our event in Washington, but especially the one in Nevada. You're not too far. So Justice Scalia wrote the decision, and he says this in the introduction. Explaining what the issue is, why sheriffs were suing the federal government, suing their own government in the first place. And this was on the Brady bill, which was the first time in history where they commandeered office of sheriff and ordered the sheriffs of this country to enforce a gun control law for the federal government for free, without any negotiation, without any input. Just, you're going to do it, and get this, with a threat of arrest if we failed to comply. Yeah, true story.
Wow.
And we don't even work for them, and they have no jurisdiction over us. So anyway, the sheriffs objected, and I was the one that started all this, and then 6 other sheriffs joined me, and Sheriff Prince from Montana and I ended up at the Supreme Court in December of 1996. And this is what Scalia says in his introduction. Because there is no constitutional text speaking to the precise question, the answer to the Clio's challenge must be sought in historical understanding and practice. He takes us through a history lesson. He quotes the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and the Federalist Papers. Throughout the entire decision, he's quoting the Federalist Papers, which is amazing history. But did you hear what he said? He called us the Clios. The sheriffs that did this case, he called us the Clios. And in the Brady bill itself, it said that the instructions on how to do this were sent to all the Clios in the country. Chief Law Enforcement Officer. So we have a declaration by the federal government and the Supreme Court that the sheriffs are indeed the Clios. But Washington State is trying to get rid of them. They're suing them for helping with deportation. They're trying to get rid of them in every respect. And they're hoping the first stage of that is to make sure that all of them are appointed instead of elected.
Yeah. And those are the areas where, when Tucker Carlson talks about the potential of a civil war, when you're looking at Seattle, and you see the new mayor of Seattle and how incompetent that crazy woman is. Yeah. It's really scary when you see so many people in those really insane areas, so detached from reality, so brainwashed, and so corrupt, and just kind of lockstep going with it, where you're going, yeah, Tucker's got a point. When you're side by side and you don't agree at all and don't want to live side by side, you're going to have issues. But what you guys are doing, exposing it, I mean, I really do believe we can all come together and drain the swamp and fight the corruption in the government as we the people, if we can be bold and assertive in pointing out where we see this corruption.
And by the way, can any of you get me on Tucker? Tucker needs to know about what's
Tucker needs to, we'll work on that. I don't know if any of us have that poll, but we'll definitely try for you.
He needs to know about this sheriff stuff, I'll tell you.
Oh,
I met him once a long time ago at CPAC, and I know he'd be willing to help us with this. But,
absolutely. And your organization...
We need more funding, and we need more publicity.
Well, we need people to understand their rights. We have not lost the ability to take back the government yet.
Amen.
That's right.
But we will if we continue to sit on our hands. You know, one thing, and I'm quoting you again on this, but you said that they were controlling, bullying, unlawful, and unfeeling. Those are traits of demonic. We're in a spiritual battle. And this just goes back to it. All the forces coming against us through all the ways and everything we've talked about on this show, it's spiritual. We've been saying this, we're in a spiritual battle. We're fighting it out on a political battleground. So we need to be praying, but faith without works is dead. We have to act. We cannot just sit around and talk about it. We have to act. Go to cspoa.org, get involved, get your sheriff vetted. And if he's a good guy, get him reelected. If he's not, find his replacement and get him out. We have to make sure we've got the good guys in place and stay involved. Go to freedombrigades.com. That's 4 hours a month of your time to take back your community, because when you take back your community, you take back the republic. You guys, Sheriff Mack, it's an honor to have you on. Thank you for coming on today. Ladies, I always have fun hanging out with you. I'm looking forward to hanging out in person in June.
Yes.
And that's going to be fun. Kendra lives close, so she's going to have to deal with me on the more regular. I'll see you before June. Kendra, I'll see you next week.
Yeah,
but
we'll see you all next year.
Happy New Year. See you guys next Wednesday. Thank you.
All right. God bless.
Bye.